many of the people that he actually took notes from, the anti-woke people, like all these like Lex Friedman types, they by design play a formative role in shifting your attention away from the real vectors of pain in contemporary American society, in trying to deflect that attention away unconditionally every step of the way, to make you say, no, 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 it is not the rich. It is not those who are at the head of these corporations that design society in a way where I am experiencing so many pressures in the wealthiest nation on earth. Pressures like, you know, healthcare, an industry that should not be for profit, and yet it is. Holy, that is so crazy. Centrist brain rot. This type of CEO is evil, but only this type, no others. Yeah, no, he like fucking enjoys Sam Altman and Peter Thiel, who are objectively just as evil as like the average fucking healthcare CEO is. Okay, and I like judging this profile of the shooter with the limited information that we have. It's obvious to me that like the pivotal moment in his life was his back surgery and all of the you know, awful things that came after that. It seems like he fucking fell off the map, fell off the face of the earth for like 6 months, festering in his anger and resentment, and then did this deed, took matters into his own hands, right? But the reality of the matter is, it does not matter what his fucking ideological background is in this situation. It doesn't matter at all, because Americans of all different political allegiances understood instantly what was going on. They didn't need to know anything. They were like, oh, healthcare CEO killed? I know what that's about. And not only did they say, I know what that's about, before even learning a single fucking thing. Nobody even thought maybe it's his wife that, like, you know, called out this hit or anything like that. Everyone immediately was like, no, it's got to be healthcare related. And not only is it healthcare related, that they thought this is good, actually. That is the level of resentment that people have. And you have to understand that this is a pivotal moment for a lot of people. The propaganda of the deed, if you will. Because you don't have to be like, it's worse if this is like a card carrying communist or some shit. You know what I mean? Because then you can just be like, oh, this is a violent ideology. Socialism is a violent ideology. Look at this. Like, this is this is a moment where a person with indecipherable politics that's like kind of right-wing associated, loves the fucking podcast bro circuit, went in and shot a healthcare CEO because of the frustration and the anger that he experienced. And almost every American that encountered the story understood what the fuck was going on. I said, it does not matter that the UHC CEO shooter has indecipherable politics. Americans of all different backgrounds immediately recognize the similar pain they've experienced and identified as motivations. This is still a story about profiteering in the healthcare system, because that's what it is. So in the upcoming days, when they say like, oh, he went crazy, like this is a crazy guy, it's like, yeah, someone who rips through the social fabric in this way and engages in an act of direct violence in this way, of course, does not have like full-blown mental clarity, but it still doesn't change the dynamic at all. And it certainly doesn't change the reception of the act, because people with the mental clarity that weren't involved in this recognize the wrong and the harm that they have also experienced in their own personal lives. So I think that is, in my opinion, the most productive way of looking at this situation. Okay? The most productive way of analyzing the situation, in my opinion, is trying to look at the systemic harm that all Americans face and why they analyzed this person's actions in the way that they did, and why they were so receptive and so broadly supportive. Like, I feel like this dude utilized like YouTube videos to figure out how he could do this hit. Like, he went on Reddit Everyday Carry to figure out what like the best possible backpack is to carry out an assassination. You know what I mean? I think what's truly shocking about this process is like how calm he was throughout the entire process. Like, I think that is interesting, because that's something you can't really learn. You know what I mean? Like he did it like he's done it a million times, you know? He did it like rechambering the gun over and over again and like calmly walking past the body to get on a fucking e-bike. Like he was on, I don't know if he's on like beta blockers or something, but he just seemingly had his mental fortitude in the moment. He locked in. Yes, he fucking locked in, chat. Let's take a look at Luigi Mangione, like the quote. America's the wealthiest nation on earth, but its people are mainly poor, and poor Americans are urged to hate themselves. To quote the American humorist Ken Hubbard, it ain't no disgrace to be poor, but it might as well be. It is in fact a crime for an American to be poor, even though America is a nation of poor. Every other nation has folk traditions of men who were poor but extremely wise and virtuous, and therefore more estimable than anyone with power and gold. No such tales are told by the American poor. He liked this Vonnegut quote. They mock themselves and glorify their betters. The meanest eating or drinking establishment owned by a man who is himself poor is very likely to have a sign on his wall asking this cruel question. If you're so smart, why ain't you rich? There will also be an American flag no larger than a child's hand, glued to a lollipop stick and flying from the cash register. Americans, like human beings everywhere, believe many things that are obviously untrue. Their most destructive untruth is that it is very easy for any American to make money. They will not acknowledge how, in fact, hard money is to come by. And therefore, those who have no money blame and blame and blame themselves. This inward blame has been a treasure for the rich and powerful, who have had to do less for their poor publicly and privately than any other ruling class since, say, Napoleonic times. Many novelties have come from America. The most startling of these, a thing without precedent, is a mass of undignified poor. They do not love one another because they do not love themselves. So he, on the one hand, he liked this quote, but on the other hand, he was like, I want to read fucking Atlas Shrugged. So who knows? But like I said, you do not need to understand what this you do not need to try and decipher this person's politics, especially because the people that have shown him support come from every different fucking political background. Okay? That's it. When I saw the Debras and the Barbaras on Facebook hitting that fucking laughing smile emoji reaction on the United Healthcare post talking about Brian Thompson's untimely demise, I was like, this is a pivotal moment. This is a moment where, like, no, Americans are openly, very viscerally angry at healthcare in particular. They might not even necessarily recognize that the for-profit aspect of healthcare is the problem. Many Americans do not. Many Americans do not have class consciousness. Many Americans do not recognize the powers that control their lives and dominate their lives. Many of them might even appreciate it. Many of them might like it. Many of them are terrified of any sort of alternatives, an alternative vision for society. Having said that, however, they still know who fucked them over at the end of the day. They know that at least in terms of healthcare, they have a direct involvement with this. Okay? They have a direct involvement with the pain. Very visceral. It's very real. It's something that they've seen. It's something that has harmed their loved ones. Maybe they're elderly. Maybe it's harmed their children. Maybe it's harmed themselves. And that's it. That's where you see where this anger and resentment is coming from. For someone like myself, I think the goal that I have in this moment is to try to reinstill class consciousness in many Americans and try to explain to them that there is a solution out of this. And it's not to engage in vigilante justice against like random fucking CEOs, but instead to have bold, radical, sweeping legislative changes. Okay? The problem, however, is that there is no mechanism there is no mechanism that will be interested in doing such a thing. Okay? The Democratic Party, unfortunately, is woefully incompetent and not tasked for even recognizing that these problems exist. The way you talk about American healthcare makes it seem like a collective trauma, at least to an outsider. I mean, it is, technically. Yeah. Holy shit, I just realized he got surgery right after turning 26. No, I wonder if his coverage lapsed. Like, so he didn't even have his parents' insurance, potentially, because 26 is a pivotal age. Pre-Obamacare, that didn't even exist. But post-Obamacare, at least you could have, like, your parents' health care. Being in this, like, legal limbo, Yeah, this dude could have been an absolutely abysmal bootlicking groiper, but no matter who you are, getting an absolutely horrific back injury and being saddled with chronic pain and medical debt will make anyone develop class consciousness, even if he doesn't have class consciousness, which I don't think he has. I saw a tweet the other day that was like, Americans will celebrate the murder of a healthcare CEO and then turn around and call ICE when their Uber Eats driver is like 5 minutes late. Okay? Like, you don't have to be a fucking card-carrying commie or anything like that. You don't have to be a socialist. You don't even have to have any sort of class consciousness whatsoever. You still do recognize that, like, healthcare, for-profit healthcare, even if you don't have the proper terms to communicate this anger and resentment, you still recognize who's fucking you over in that situation because it's so deeply personal. And it's very obvious that he, like, still comes from, you know, a relatively well-off family in Maryland, too. Many of the people that he actually took notes from, the anti-woke people, like all these like Lex Friedman types, they by design play a formative role in shifting your attention away from the real vectors of pain in contemporary American society. They play a very big role in trying to deflect that attention away unconditionally every step of the way, to make you say, no, 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 it is not the rich. It is not those who are at the head of these corporations that design society in a way where I am experiencing so many pressures in the wealthiest nation on earth. Pressures like, you know, healthcare, an industry that should not be for profit. And yet it is. It is actually your fellow man that is causing your suffering. You should be angry not at those who are in positions of power, but you should be not at, and you should not be angry at the systems that bind us, but instead you should be angry at those who are fucking annoying, or those who advocate for their own, I don't know, for their own existence, those who want civil liberties, those who want equality. You should be angry at those people who have no power. Get mad at undocumented immigrants. Get mad at trans people. Get mad at those who advocate for trans people and undocumented immigrants. Not the CEOs. Not the corporate oligopoly that exists. And yet, it is obvious that in spite of all of that, in spite of all of that chaos and the deliberate attempts to shift your priorities away, to shift your attention away from those who actually cause harm, especially when it comes to an issue that touches every single American in a meaningful way, okay? People go, nah, I know what happened here. And that's precisely what's going on with the story of Luigi Mangione. God damn, dude. Holy shit.